All right, let's just go to that point about Liberal leader. I could confirm now from Andrew Hastie's office that he will not be putting his hand up for the leadership, Chris Uhlmann. I made the point in my editorial, there's rarely a silver bullet for a win, there's rarely a silver bullet reason for a loss. Where do Liberal Party go now?
Well, whoever's got this job has got the hardest job in politics again. We used to always say that about the leader of the opposition, and then the Prime Minister's job seemed to become much harder than the leader of the opposition. I think now we can certainly say that's whoever leads the Liberal Party next is in some ways on a hiding to nothing. And I saw all the figures that you put up, and I do appreciate all of that. But let's look at where the Liberal Party starts from. The Liberal Party starts at a primary vote of 30%. So that's the coalition. They have never been in that position before. Their starting point for the next election is about 40 seats. They're 36 seats away, almost doubling that number in order to get back into government. And there'll be a lot of bruised and battered people, and they'll all have different ideas about how this party should go. Should they be Conservative Liberal? Should they be Liberal Conservative? All those policy fights lie ahead of the leader. So now it's not Andrew Hastie, then it boils down to Susan Lee, Dan Tehan or Angus Taylor. A lot of people are angry at Angus Taylor. They believe the reason that they didn't have an economic plan, which Peter Costello pointed to, was because of Angus Taylor. So if he gets the job, he gets it without any real authority, and a difficult job at that. Susan Lee, of course, will think that she should be running the party. She might say that Julie Bishop didn't get her chance. It's time for a woman to run the Liberal Party. But whoever gets this job is in an extraordinarily difficult position. This party has to be remade root and branch, and it's not just the federal party, it's all of the states as well. It's functionally dead in Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria. It's in administration in New South Wales. How do you start a comeback from there?
That is the point I made on Saturday night too, Chris. I agree with you. I think the architecture of the Liberal Party is not as modern as it needs to be to fight a modern war against the left, because they're fighting an enemy that's not just an opponent that's not just the Labor Party. It's multi-factored, and it's well resourced, as we can see there with the Teals. And it also is very disciplined in its preference flows, and in a preferential voting system, that is the only game in town. As you can see, the differential between Labor vote and Liberal vote was less than 400,000 votes. But the difference in the parliament is basically half the chamber and more.
Yeah, and part of that too is that, and look at the effect of the Teals, and if you want to see them in a politically historical sense, and one of the Liberals mentioned this to me, think of them as the DLP. It's not like the Greens to the Labor Party. Those preferences flow back. What the Teals do, they're a political party that have been set up precisely to stop the Liberal Party from ever regaining power again, and they're doing that very effectively. So the number that was missing there before is there's another 4 million people, and those 4 million people are voting away from the Labor and Liberal parties, but there's one particular party, and that is the Teals, that has been specifically designed to weaponise keeping the Liberal Party out of power. That is a big problem.
You are not wrong. Let's go just quickly to the government. Obviously, you know, everyone's exhausted at the end of a campaign, Dennis, but I tell you what, when you win, you can find energy to get down to Canberra, to get back in the offices and start the work of government. We saw that today from the Prime Minister and his team. We know, of course, on the Labor side, he doesn't get to pick the personnel in his cabinet. That gets chosen by the factions. He divvies up the portfolios. Surely he's got to move someone like Bowen. I mean, where are you hearing things might move, Dennis?
Well, look, I think what we have to remember is that the Prime Minister the Labor Prime Minister does have to take the candidate selected by the factions. However, somebody like Bob Hawke and now Albanese, and the strength that they have, they can actually call in the factional leaders and say, now look, we don't want any silliness here, and there's a couple of people I'd like to see promoted, so that there's a reasonable conversation before that's picked. Now, the Prime Minister during the campaign has cemented in all of his senior people. Richard Marles as Deputy and Defence Minister, Penny Wong, Don Farrell, Jim Chalmers as Treasurer, and Katie Gallagher as Finance. So he's done all of that already. The peak of the Labor leadership is in place. Now, what they are going to have to do is adjust some of the numbers. First of all, I think Anthony Albanese wants to see greater representation for Western Australia. State representation, very important. So he wants to see more from Western Australia. On the selection of female candidates. There has to be another female ministerial member. That probably means that, given that the left is now in control, not only on national executive, at the conference and in the caucus now for the first time, there has to be more places for the left, another place for a woman. And so what we're actually looking at is the potential for some long-standing Labor right male minister to be asked to step aside in the interests of factional, state and gender balance. Now, I wouldn't want to suggest that that's going to be Chris Bowen. I see that you have, but I think this is a real challenge for the Prime Minister. He wants to bring in new people, like Andrew Charlton, the member for Parramatta, very good economist. He's trying to bring new blood in, which is understandable. I think at this stage, it's too early to say he's going to dump anyone, even Tanya Plibersek.
My point on Bowen was I think he needs to change portfolios, absolutely. I think the factions will be the ones who make the call on whether he survives into the ministry. Got to leave it there, gents. I'm out of time. I could talk to you all night, but I'll come back at this again. Thank you.